I'm Jeanette Roche. This is Forum Daily West. Here are some of the top stories we've been following. Canada announces dollar-for-dollar reciprocal tariffs on $29.8 billion worth of U.S. imports. Plus, Bank of Canada cuts interest rate by 1/4 point and warns of trade war impact on economy. And parents of Humboldt bus crash victim Logan Boulet honored with King Charles III's coronation medal. Thanks so much for joining us. The trade war between Canada and the United States has been feeling like a high-stakes chess game between the two countries, with the latest move seeing Canada imposing a dollar-for-dollar 25% reciprocal tariff on $29.8 billion worth of imports from the United States. These tariffs on the U.S. will take effect at 12:01 a.m. tomorrow, March the 13th. Dominic LeBlanc, Canada's Minister of Finance and Intergovernmental Affairs, made the announcement this morning in response to U.S. President Donald Trump going ahead with the 25% aluminum and steel tariffs put in place on Tuesday. LeBlanc breaks down these latest $29.8 billion tariff measures.
This includes steel products worth $12.6 billion and aluminum products worth $3 billion, as well as additional imported U.S. goods worth $14.2 billion for a total of $29.8 billion. The list of additional products affected by counter tariffs includes computers, sports equipment, and cast iron products as examples. These tariffs are in addition to Canada's 25% counter tariffs on $30 billion of imports from the United States in response to U.S. tariffs put in place on March 4th. In addition, we learned yesterday that the United States tariffs would also be imposed on steel and aluminum content in certain derivative products. The government is currently assessing this aspect and may impose, of course, further tariffs in response to this measure as well.
During that same announcement Wednesday, Foreign Affairs Minister Melody Joly made a plea to those south of the border, saying there are no winners in a trade war.
American friends, help us help you. Please help us end these tariffs as quickly as possible. And please talk to your elected representatives at the federal, at the state and municipal level. Please talk to your governors, to your senators, to your House representatives, and to your mayors. Send a message to the White House. Working together, Canada and the U.S. have built a strong enough economy, and working together, we can bring down inflation and bring stability to the markets.
And Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne explained that the steel and aluminum industry are so tightly integrated that one Canadian job represents 13 American jobs.
These tariffs are bringing the Wild West on the factory floors across North America. This needs to stop. This is hurtful for workers. This is hurtful for industry. This is hurtful for the competitiveness of North America. Canadian steel and aluminum are essential for North America. Canadian steel and aluminum fuel North American supply chains. Actually, I was with the association representing aluminum. So one job in the United States, one job in Canada in the primary aluminum sector support 13 jobs in the United States. That's the ratio 1 to 13. This is how integrated we are when it comes to steel and aluminum in North America.
Champagne also says Canada will be ensuring the auto sector lives up to its commitments to Canada despite the tariffs. Well, Disney is introducing an openly Christian character into its Pixar animated show, Win or Lose, shortly after a transgender storyline was pulled. The move comes amid a wider cultural shift towards conservatism in lockstep with U.S. President Donald Trump's second term in office, who had previously branded the organization as, quote, woke. Lori is the first openly Christian character to be introduced by Disney in nearly 2 decades, when the company featured Christian representation in 2007's Bridge to Terabithia. The Bank of Canada lowered its key interest rate by a quarter point on Wednesday as the tariff battle with the United States starts to weigh on the Canadian economy. The policy rate stands at 2.75% after the central bank's seventh consecutive rate cut. President Trump on Tuesday scaled back his threat of placing a 50% tariff on steel and aluminum, but still went ahead with the 25% tariff after Ontario Premier Doug Ford backed off his threat of placing a surcharge on the electricity it supplies to 3 U.S. states. Ford says he agreed to hold off after U.S. Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick extended an olive branch in the form of a meeting in Washington to talk free trade. Ford says he will be joined by Canada's Minister of Finance and Intergovernmental Affairs, Dominic LeBlanc, and hopes Canada's ambassador to the United States, Kirsten Hillman, will also be present. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith is in Houston, Texas for CERA Week, a major international energy conference. While there, Smith discussed potential overseas sales of Alberta-owned heavy oil with a global oil and petrochemical firm. The potential deal with a multinational company, which was not named by Alberta, would be a transaction that would see the overseas transport and sale of about 2 million barrels per month of its oil via the Alberta Petroleum Marketing Commission. On Tuesday, the province signed a partnership agreement with JOGMEC, the state-owned enterprise under Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, to boost collaboration in developing Alberta's energy and natural resources. And while in Houston at the Energy Conference, Premier Smith is speaking to the summit that includes Doug Burgum, the Interior Secretary in the Trump administration, as well as U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright. Earlier this week, I sat down with federal political columnist Brian Lilley, who says people are criticizing Premier Smith for even being in Houston.
Some people are saying, oh, why are you down there? Why are you talking to our enemies? If you're not talking to the people who are in the administration or close to the administration or the CEOs that can influence the administration to try and get tariffs lifted, well, what are you doing? I mean, you just want them to sit at home and do nothing? Look, I support both the moves that Ontario Premier Doug Ford has taken and the moves that Alberta Premier Danielle Smith and Scott Moe's down there, by the way, Saskatchewan's Premier, they're all trying in their own ways to find a way to get us out of this situation. Absolutely, they should be down there doing this. Just like they've both gone to Washington a couple of times. I believe the Premier should be in Washington more often. Again, complete lack of federal leadership at the moment, and we may not have federal leadership for months to come. The premiers need to step up. Danielle Smith is doing that. Anyone that's criticizing her is a reactionary person who just wants to go to war with the United States.
You can catch my full interview with Brian Lilley on YouTube, where Brian dissects Mark Carney's Liberal leadership win and offers his predictions about when the country might see its next election. According to Brian, it could be called as early as this Sunday for next month. The city of Lethbridge, in partnership with the Boulay family, revealed this year's logo for Green Shirt Day, held annually on April the 7th. The day honors the late Humboldt Bronco Logan Boulay, whose organ donation saved 6 lives after the Bronco bus crash on April the 6th, 2018. As his legacy inspired new registrations for organ donors across the country, Logan's parents, Toby and Bernadine, were awarded the King Charles III's Coronation Medal, recognized from the Kidney Foundation of Canada for their advocacy and work towards spreading awareness of organ donation. When we return, we'll have more of the top stories from the West with Forum Daily West. Well, Prime Minister-designate Mark Carney is promising a seamless transition as he takes the reins from Justin Trudeau this Friday, according to sources. Liberal caucus members feel the party rejuvenated and united, while Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says Carney is the same as Trudeau.
Incredibly important for me to hear directly from the members of caucus the concerns of Canadians on the ground, their priorities. There's tremendous energy in that group. We know this is a crucial time for our country. We're united to serve Canadians, and we will build this country.
The Liberal establishment has installed Justin Trudeau's economic advisor as the next Liberal leader to trick Canadians into giving Liberals a 4th term in power. But he's just like Justin, and he's more of the same. We have the same Liberal MPs, the same Liberal advisors, the same Liberal promises, who will produce the same Liberal results.
Here locally, Lethbridge police say they are attempting to locate a 36-year-old man who's wanted on drug-related warrants. Warren Shane McMurtry is wanted on warrants of possession of a controlled substance for trafficking purposes, possession of a weapon, driving while prohibited, and possession of the proceeds of crime. Police are asking the public to notify them if anyone is familiar with his whereabouts or has further information. You can call LPS at 403-328-4444 or call Crime Stoppers. Well, Lethbridge City Council on Tuesday adopted an updated parks master plan that aims to direct planning and care of the city's parks for the next 15 to 20 years. The master plan was created by the members of the public, which Councillor Belinda Crowson says will meet current and future recreational needs and support the overall quality of life in Lethbridge. Parks Planning Manager Andrew Somerville added that this will lower long-term maintenance costs and create more naturalization. The last master plan was created in 2007. Also, in that same meeting, City Council voted unanimously to ask the provincial government if residents may vote either manually or by electronic tabulation ahead of the municipal election this year. The motion was forwarded by Councillor Rayko Dodick after Council considered the rise in costs of running an election after the UCP government put a ban on the use of electronic voting tabulators. The city determined the election could cost $650,000 without electronic tabulators, and results wouldn't be known for days. The city will make a request to the province for either the use of tabulators for the October election or to cover the increase in funding of around $300,000 should the ban remain. Amid a housing crisis impacting residents in Lethbridge, one not-for-profit organization is striving to change that. My City Care and Parallel Church have received conditional approval from City Council to begin work on a new housing development complex that includes 180 unique housing units. The site surrounds the former Global News building at 1401 28th Street North. The proposed received unanimous approval from Council to provide conditional approved funding of $500,000 towards the project.
our pastor had a heart to tackle one of the greatest needs in Lethbridge and in many of our communities. And we sat down with our local municipality leaders and our mayor, and we asked, what is the greatest need in Lethbridge? And he said, housing. So in the last 3 years, we've built a lot of trust. So any housing that we're adding to the housing market is going to help. I mean, if you look at the early church, you look in the book of Acts and you look at the next couple centuries of Christianity, you see how they really stepped out into the community. And we have a saying around here, our pastor wrote a book about it called Let's Take Our Job Back. And the church really was the social arm of the government and stepped into that. And so you really saw Christianity really being propelled by being involved in the cares of their community. And you look throughout the Bible and you see it all throughout Scripture where we get engaged, and it's part of the church's responsibility to get engaged with those social issues that are happening in their own backyards. So we took that very seriously.
The project will feature multiple apartment complexes and rows of homes with 30% of the units considered affordable housing. Pending securement protocols and rezoning that's underway, construction is hopeful to begin in the spring. Thousands of jobs are on the line as Hudson's Bay Company looks to close half of its stores in a bid to avoid bankruptcy. Court documents say the company may run out of cash for payroll obligations within days. Canada's oldest retailer says it has been facing significant pressures, including lower consumer spending, trade tensions between Canada and the U.S., and post-pandemic declines in downtown store traffic.